there's a huge shift that's going on in the church landscape of America.
We're shifting from the day of the ordained to the day of the ordinary, where God indeed ordains the ordinary to do His work, and He gets more glory for it.
I think that God is on the edge of breaking us free from a lot of traditions.
Well, He basically says, listen, come back to me, come back to the book, come back to the promised land, come back to original Christianity, come back and you guys will change the world.
All around the world, people are moving back to a simpler Christianity. They're leaving behind man-made traditions and asking the question, what does church look like without all the religion? The problem for us here in the West is that for most of us, all we know about doing church is what the traditional church taught us. But we have to go back to the church of the New Testament, back to the church that Jesus talked about. God is using traditional churches in amazing ways, but He's also revealing a new way of doing things. He's pouring out a new wine, which requires a different kind of wineskin. It's not just a smaller version of what we've done before, it's a whole new way of life. But what do you actually do when you come together? What's different, other than the size of the room that you meet in? It's not about coming up with a better system. The idea is to allow the Holy Spirit to do His work without us getting in the way. There are several key things we can do when we come together to encourage community and create an environment where the Holy Spirit can do His work.
This I know, for the Bible tells me so.
Simple church is not Honey, I Shrunk the Church. It's rather a family.
It becomes much more of a family. And if the needs are such that family isn't the theme for this week, you shift into being a hospital. If somebody's really got a severe problem of some sort, you sort of shut everything down, take care of the immediate problem. Sometimes you cycle into being a school because there's teaching that needs to happen. And sometimes, hopefully, you cycle into being an army.
House church, or sometimes we use the word simple church, does not mean simply meeting in a home. It's a far deeper and more serious revolution than that. What it means is a shift in the way you think about church. I grew up in traditional church. I was a traditional church pastor. And what we saw as church really was the result of a program that you implemented in the context of a meeting. House church is far more than that. First of all, it really is a family. It's a family relationship. And so therefore it's a 24/7 kind of relationship that you enter into with a group of people. Now you meet together, but it's not limited just to meetings. Secondly, it's way more than a program. In fact, we kind of jokingly say a program is what you do when you don't know how to listen to Jesus. Because the foundational element of house church is that Jesus is present. I mean, every believer believes that, says that. Jesus said whenever 2 or 3 are gathered in His name that He would be present. But what does that really mean? I think it means that He wants to be the head of His church.
Simple church is a way of living. It has nothing to do with coming together in one sense. Though it has gatherings, though people do gather, and though there's a commitment to that regularly, the reality of simple church is the idea of living out the life of Christ in the midst of the people on a regular basis. So it starts with the concept of where 2 or more are gathered, and Jesus Christ is in their midst. And it literally invades every aspect of life.
People, when they think of the word church, they think of a building with a steeple on it, and that's not what church is. Church is God's people involved in doing God's business. And it has nothing to do with the form or the structures or the buildings that are around.
And that's why God created us, first to have intimacy with Him and then with each other. So that's really the church, is relationship and to have community.
Church in the New Testament really was a small group of people intimately connected with one another, probably meeting in a home, and not reduced just to a meeting, but really a whole lifestyle.
Simple church is a gathering of believers who are in the pursuit of God among the company of friends. And our goal in coming together is to say, Lord, here we are. What do you want us to do? And every church gathering, every gathering of the ecclesia will be different. Some days it's going to be just prayer. Some other time it's going to be teaching. God's doing something that needs to be taught, something that needs to be corrected, and someone's going to teach. Another time you're just going to worship and enjoy God. Every meeting doesn't have to be the same, it just has to be real.
A typical house church, basically about 10, 15 people would do four things. They would have a meeting, M-E-A-T-I-N-G. They would eat.
There's something about eating together that just kind of breaks down the walls. I mean, it's like having communion when you have a meal. And that's what really it's all about.
It's a grand part of fellowship to me. It brings people together.
You know, the joke is, how do you spell fellowship? It's 4 letters, F-O-O-D. We love to have that.
The eating business was absolutely crucial to the ministry of Jesus. He was almost a specialist in eating in other people's homes. And if he wasn't invited for food, which was all the time, he was bold enough to go out in the streets and said, Zacchaeus, come down from that tree, I've got to eat in your house. So he invited himself. Quite a guy. Secondly, they were sharing life, not an hour. Life means you share material blessings, you share spiritual blessings, and you do this all the time, and there's nobody who does it for you. Everybody does it with each other.
You know, if you walk in with a problem and you walk out with the same problem a couple hours later, the group has failed.
You know, there's been times that in my business I've had slow periods. You know, as a general contractor, a builder, and we'd have good times, we'd have slow times. And, you know, the church was always there to provide. And whatever my need was, they would cover it.
I couldn't drive because my head was swimming, and for a day or two I was even nauseated as well. But I knew that my home church people, they would help. And so I went Sunday night, someone took me, picked me up and took me with one of the other members, and then I shared the problem. And I believe it's really right to say every member over the next hour or day